Good morning, everyone, and welcome to GPA Trading Services live trading class on this Tuesday, January the 13th, 2026. As you know, today is Tuesday, Gary's Market Forecaster, GMF. It's the heads up on what's going down in the markets. But first, we have very specific rules of engagement. Those include the following. Do not trade with money you cannot afford to lose. Always trade with protective stops. Make certain the 4 hour, the 1 hour, the 30, and the 15-minute time frames align prior to trading with the MPA PE5 version 5.0 software. Also adhere to very strict money management rules, which includes never risking more than 2% of your entire account balance on any one given trade. For options friends, never risk more than 5% of your entire account balance on any one given options trade. And finally, all information provided by GPA Trading Services is for your educational purposes. So please give us a moment as we open up the charts. Before we get started on the charts, let's look at what's the anticipated earnings. It's earnings season. This week is going to be banks and financials. So this morning we had JP Morgan, we got BNY, Bank of New York. Later on Wednesday, the big ones are going to be Wells Fargo, Citibank, Bank of America. And then the big dogs really start coming in on Thursday. Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, BlackRock. And then, of course, on Friday, Regions, State Bank, State Street, PNC, M&T Bank, etc. So this week we'll start ramping up into financials. And then typically you see money flow into financials for earnings, out of financials into tech. So maybe that'll get the NASDAQ finally to start producing some movement to the upside. The leader has been ES, but we'll go over all that in a moment. But first, let's jump to the charts. All right, ladies and gentlemen, picking up with the dollar index on the monthly chart. High level overview, Randy. Let me adjust this just a touch so we can see our destination up here. High level overview, wave one is done. We're working on wave two down. The question at the moment is, in the last several months, is this recent swing point low the end and we're ready to go breaking out? Or are we going to work our way further down? And as we've been discussing this from the high level overview, back in 2007, we bottomed and reversed. 15 years later, we made a move toward destination one. Now we expect this retracement to occur, started about 3+ years ago. We got what we're looking for, but the question is, do we need to go further or do we end up ending here or somewhere in between? Well, the bias was always at some point the wave two is going to end, and then we're going to go breaking out to new highs. So let's drill down on why we believe this is more than likely not the end, and this little rally should fizzle and break back down further. That's the plan. When you come over here to our dollar index, we can see why. This latest move, we kind of rallied up into the Magic Fibo. Kind of expected that after this last swing point low over here. And all of this overlapping chopping action kind of dictates that this is less likely going to continuation and break out. And this is more likely it's going to make another low, lower high, lower low, because the prior action where that prior swing point was right here, we did overlap. When you went up, pull back, up, overlap, overlap, up, overlap, overlap, up, overlap, overlap. So this is not traditionally impressive price action to warrant a bottom reversal for us to go breaking out above that 114.72 and making new highs. This is more likely still corrective. And we got what we looked for. We went back to the resistance zone. We pulled back down. We broke below 98.50, although certainly from the recent low to the high, use the big cursor, from the recent low to the high, we did actually bounce off the 618. So this is why I'm watching it. Here's your 618 over here, right there, 97.80. We came down and bounced off of that, rallied to the Magic Fibo. Well, that seems somewhat bullish because you got a 618 retracement and you bounce, but we're below the Magic Fibo, this big line right here. And this is a key critical level of support and resistance. That's why I recommend you have it on all your charts. It does come into play. So when we started reaching into this, we got rejected. We're trying to retest it. As long as we stay below this, the probability we break down to new lows is much higher than the probability we break out. But what sort of price action would we need to warrant? Well, maybe this is the beautiful move up, 618 retracement, and we're ready to go much higher. What I'm looking for that to occur would be for this to break above the Magic Fibo, come down and retest, then bounce and go breaking out. So if we see that, if this breaks above, come back and retest, then bounces and takes out whatever that high is, particularly this battle zone we've been testing for months and months. Rallied up in here, we failed. Rallied up, failed. Rallied up, failed. And so if we can even bust above, come back and retest, we still need to break above this zone before that would warrant maybe this is the beginning of that end. So I won't say it's impossible for that to be that wave two end, and we are reversing, but the bigger picture is clearly more likely this is not the end of wave two, and we are going to go further to the downside. Fair enough? So be careful to the upside. Yes, this thing could be over and we could possibly go breaking out. The plan again is at some point we are going to end wave two, whether we pay me now or we pay me later or somewhere in between. The bias is it's supposed to end and go breaking out. But I'm just not convinced this is it. For the last reason, months back when this was the new swing point low, I said the same thing. This price action is not conducive to breaking out. It's more conducive to making a new low. We did it. And now again on this recent swing point low, it's the same. It still has this overlapping, doesn't look, still looks corrective. And is it possible this thing could go breaking out? Sure. Is it high probability it's ready to go breaking out? Well, again, long term, big picture, the probability that wave two ends and we go breaking out to new highs is high probability. But in the shorter term, is this the bottom reversal? And this is what we see for that breakout. While all this overlapping again is not conducive to a breakout, it's conducive to corrective, and we probably still need a new swing point low. Well, we talked about this a few weeks ago and even before the end of the year, where if we started to break below this 98, which was a battle zone, we really need to get below that 618, which we tested. But a lot of times you'll get this type of move. You go up, you come down, you bounce, you hit the Magic Fibo, it fails, and we ultimately go seeking some new swing point lows. 95.60, 95.08 would be logical targets, but we still need to close below this 97.80. So even as I told you, when we close below this 98.50, the writing's kind of on the wall, but it's not official until we close below that. And right now we have it. But what also we have, Mr. Tucson, if we look at this, and I'm going to take this off for a second, and we just look at this recent swing point high to the swing point low, we need to break above the 618, which is also above this Magic Fibo. But let's use the 2-point tool, and we take that swing point high down to the swing point low, and we see where that 618 is lining up. It's up here above the Magic Fibo. So up and until price closes on a daily basis above this Magic Fibo area and really needs to clean this hurdle where I put this big pink box. We close above that, then by all means, I think we're going to get another new high around 177, 101.11, maybe make a move toward 102. We shall see. But that's a big if. So we hit this the other day, it rejected. We're trying to bounce into this. Long as we stay below this, the more logical move would be for another push low. All right. So be in a position of authority that if this thing does go breaking out, it's possible, but based on all of that going up off the bounce, less likely. More likely we're going to end up with that high, low, lower, high, lower, low than we are this to break out. But for those of you who think that, nope, the dollar's still going to go breaking out, I don't think it's going to do anything other than that. That's fine. I'm with you and I can see how, but I would need to see this price action. Again, we want to break back above the Magic Fibo, come back and retest it, then bounce to take out this 100 area. Then this could potentially mean we're going to get more upside. There is still the big anything but the dollar short trades up here at 102. I still think, Randy, if we can get above here, Emil, Mr. Tucson, Alan, we get above 102 and we close on a daily candle basis, not just a wick up there, but a candle body closes above there, then I think that short squeeze could pop and push us up near that 105, right up in this next big resistance zone. So a long way to prove that we're reversing. We got to get above the Magic Fibo. We got to get above 102 because there's a lot defending on that. All that money and all those short trades sitting up there could cause a short squeeze if we can get above it, pop us into this zone. But what if, William Bruce, we did all that? What if we go up, retest, break out, hit the 102 area, and we get the short squeeze, and next thing you know, we're up here at that 104 to 105-ish, 106 range. What if that happens? Well, from the prior move, we still got to get above that to warrant new highs, right? So if we see a break above retest, then we ride into 102, pops into this resistance zone up here, this big pink box, and gets rejected back down, then that's still a trend continuation to the downside. Only until we do what I'm saying, break above the Magic Fibo, retest, break the high, push into 102, then we get the short squeeze up here. We still got to get through that before it warrants new highs. Fair enough? So that's what I mean by based on this recent bounce, it's still much higher probability it's going to fail and make a new low than this thing's going to truly go breaking out. But we'll force price to prove its intentions. And for now, the likelihood we're going to fizzle in this area and make new lows is greater than this is going to go popping, but you know what to look for, right? And that would be a break above the Magic Fibo and this recent high to low that would be taking out the 618. So we start closing above 100, and I think we will go visit that 177, 101 area. And if we could get a overachievement to the upside, where we actually start closing above that 102, then that's where the short squeeze can come in and push us up near that 104 to 107 level. All right? All righty. In the interim, be very careful. All this was a daily cycle up. That's what we were looking for. So you come back over here to the software and we can see why we got that bounce. Daily reversed and started pushing us into the cloud area. For those of you, I love my Ichimoku cloud and the Magic Fibo sitting there. So with this going up in there, we got that scenario. Are we going to turn over? Or we're going to end up slingshotting lower? Even if we grind a little bit more, we could still cycle down and we'd get that lower high, lower low. So be careful. This is extremely strong resistance. This box, the Magic Fibo right here, And our Ichimoku cloud represents this gray pink box right here. So this is the Magic Fibo right there. And this is the Ichimoku cloud, all encompassing right there. So that's why I'm likely going to think we're going to fizzle and go lower. Could this grind a little bit more? The daily's still kind of up at the moment, but be careful. The bias is less likely to go breaking out, more likely to get another push lower because of the prior overlapping price action. And what does that leave us with when we look at our currency trades? The dollar yen, euro dollar, dollar yen, euro dollar is pushing lower while the dollar is bouncing. The euro dollar does the inverse, but we're still within the recent swing point low to high. We got this big support zone, which is the battle zone, and our Magic Fibo, our 618 786 retracement zone. So I would not be surprised that we maybe dip a little further. Dollar can grind a little bit more. This can grind a little bit more. And then we look for a bounce to go back up. All right. That's kind of the plan. Worst case scenario, we break back below the Magic Fibo. Then that's like the dollar pushing toward that 102 and getting a pop toward 105. This thing would come down in this area if that happens. So inverse relationship. Why is that? The dollar index is made up of a basket of currencies. The most predominant currency in that basket is the euro dollar. So therefore, when the dollar goes up, the euro goes down. And when the dollar goes down, the euro dollar goes up. That is the plan. Got it? All righty. Pound dollar, still the same, grinding it up, pulling back. Is this over? Do we go higher? Well, on both of these, I have to go with what the charts show. And that shows us, Mr. Tucson and others, from the recent high to low, we took out the 618. We initially got a little wick and we got a rejection, but we got some big candle bodies there that we closed above that 618 in this zone. We didn't quite clear the 786 up here, but we did close above the 618. And that candle right there stated we have a 75% chance we're going to go visit 119.84. So this is part of the ebb and flow and the stair step, but the bias is we have a 75% chance to go up here. So even with a retest of the Magic Fibo, still have that 75% chance we're going to go visiting that 119.84 and a 70+% chance we're going to go visit 120.41 up there. Got it? So that's still several hundred pips to get up there. And yes, the daily's turning over on the euro, just like the daily was turning up on the dollar index. So this was expected. And this is the big support zone. And as my daily starts getting oversold on the euro, we're going to look for that bounce to take place when perhaps the daily reverses back up. And currently, looking at the euro dollar, we're still in this trade up about 76 pips. Took some profits, looking for this to grind. Still think we're going to go higher, but that's the plan. And my monthly is expected, as we talked about many months ago, that this was going to go from oversold toward overbought, start slingshotting higher and higher. And so far, I expect this is going to turn over to slingshot higher in the coming months. And this is just going to keep grinding higher as the dollar grinds lower. This will grind higher. That's the plan. So far, so good. And when you come over here to the daily time frame, we can see why we're pulling back some on this euro dollar is because the daily reversed. Beautiful. Now the question is this going to finish the cycle and give us a few more days of downside pressure? Or is this thing going to go ahead and slingshot up like we've done since we reversed here. Slingshot down, a slingshot up, slingshot higher and higher. And this was a small one, a medium size. Maybe this is a large one, but we kind of did it over here, right? On the way down. So is it that we're going to do that? And the third time, we're just going to slingshot back up and go breaking out? Well, it is what it is because of our technical picture. I trust the gauges and I know why we're getting that pullback. Software showed you why. And what do we think it's going to go higher? Because of this scenario, that high to that low, close above the 618, 75% chance we're going to 198, 119.84, and 120.40. The pound dollar's in the same boat. From the recent high to low, we took out the 618 on that big candle right there, that big green body candle. So it says we have a 75% chance this pound dollar is going to grind up toward 139. 70% chance we basically go to 140. So, Mr. Tucson and others, I'm in a position of authority. I'm looking for this to continue and push toward that 139, 140. And the software, why did we get a pullback? Because the software was setting up for a pullback. We're up 250 plus pips. We're up a little bit more. We've been chopping and grinding, but the plan is the same. Monthly cycles, it's been slingshotting higher and higher and higher. That's the plan eventually for this thing to continue, for this to slingshot higher and higher and higher as we grind towards that 139, 140, perhaps even higher. We made a bold statement many moons ago when we started talking about this scenario with the dollar index. And we said, well, what if, William Bruce, we actually do get down here to 80? That was kind of the plan. We diagnosed this top and reversal, said we would go down and gave us a target down here. So far, we made it to this juncture. But if we do end up going down here, where does that put the euro? Where does that put the pound? High probability we get a bigger retracement. So you come back over here, you can go back to the pound on that monthly, and we shrink this a bit so we can see that bigger picture and bring this over this direction. And we can see that all we're looking for from that recent high to the low, we're looking for a decent 618 type of retracement off of that. We're not there yet. We got a long way to go. So we should reach these targets and then some. If that dollar goes all the way to 80, then this is likely going to go up here near this 160 area up here. It's probably a logical place for it to go. What does that come from? I'll go ahead and put this back on our charting platform. Let me move that back off of that. So there's that. But go back to the charting platform and show you what that looks like. Go out to a monthly, bring this into perspective. And again, from all-time high over here to this swing point low, all we're looking for is this to retrace probably somewhere between a 50 to a 618 retracement, somewhere in that zone. So all I can say is, Randy, the probability we get up to 157, 170 area would be extremely high if the dollar breaks down to 80. That's the plan. And if not, then obviously if the dollar doesn't get to down to 80 and we stop at 95 or 90 or something, then we're not going to get quite that high. But it's still 3 years ago, so we'd make thousands of pips on that bounce because we're looking for a retracement. And sure enough, that's exactly where we are. And I'm not convinced it's over yet. That's why I think the dollar's going to break down more and this is going to break up even higher. Same thing with the euro in that same boat, that from the recent high to low, if the dollar goes down and reaches that 80 target, like we originally discussed, then this euro should go somewhere around that 140, 136, 137 up to 147, kind of targeting about 140. Got it? So this is extremely high probability. Dollar goes to 80, no question, no ifs, no buts, no ands. We're going up here in the 136 to 146 area. Amen. Kind of middle of the row, somewhere around 140. But the dollar has to get to 80, break down towards 80. Fair enough? All righty. What about the euro yen? Grinding a bit higher with this craziness in the markets. We get the tweets on Truth Social, and we're doing the tariffs. We're taking over Greenland. We're gonna put 25% tariffs on anybody doing business with Iran. All these crazy things, and the markets are just kind of grinding higher. But I still say, be careful with this. I don't know how much higher this thing can go without a pullback. So, plus all this overlapping chopping action, we've been discussing it. We got a monthly overbought, a weekly overbought, a daily overbought. So, I'm looking to get to a short position. We got here, got pipped out, looking for another opportunity to look for this to go and be careful to the upside. All I can say, if you're long on some of these, I'd definitely be in a position of authority. I would definitely be taking some profits because with a monthly, weekly, and daily software at extreme, we're not just going to continue to go up forever. We're going to get potentially that big move lower. And when we get a little financial crisis that erupts, typically the yen strengthens. And even old Mr. Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, has taken a lot of money out of the dollar and pumped it into the yen, which that's whether you respect him or not, it kind of fits the tune of this thing is getting extremes. Monthly, weekly, daily on the software is exhausted. Yes, it could still grind higher, but how much? So be careful. Pound yen, it's doing the same thing, looking for this thing to start turning over. Well, Randy, is it ever going to turn over? Still, I continue to bring this up every time we get a financial crisis. This thing responds in a very dramatic way. Going into the dot-com bubble burst, coming into the end of 99, 2000, it dropped over 9,000 pips. Then it grinded higher into the next financial crisis. And then what happened then? Boom, dropped 13,000 with the financial crisis. So what do you think is going to happen during our next financial crisis? There's cracks in the ceiling, there's cracks in the foundation, cracks all over the place. So at what point are we going to get it? I'm going to call it the Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey, but it's out there. Could it be the commercial real estate, 5 trillion in commercial real estate that pops? The 38 trillion in debt, 1.4 trillion in credit card debt. And then the tweet he just put out, well, we're going to cap interest rates on credit cards to 10%. The banks aren't going to like that. And the people he's trying to help, most of those probably have bad credit. So these credit card companies can just go, okay, you're going to pull this, then we're just not going to extend credit to you high risk individuals. And then what? They go to loan sharks, or where would they go? So it's all crazy out there. You never know what's going to happen on the next tweet. What's that got to do with this? Well, the market's rallied on this. Gold rallies. It's a little uncertainty what's going to happen. But the technical picture still is a technical picture. And looking at the pound yen in the big picture, this is not conducive for us to go breaking out to all-time new highs. And we're still at lower highs. But remember, I was the biggest proponent of the big run. And back in COVID, I said this thing would run about 6 to 8,000 pips to go make a new high. It's done that. It's on its pushing a little bit more. So yeah, we expected that. Now that we got this big correction into the recent carry trade unwind. This looks very impulsive. And then this is overlapping and chopping. Where's this going? Bubble pattern, you get one of these, it just keeps going, never stop. You get a big correction. And from this recent overlapping, chopping gobbledygook here, we got a big run. We got some smaller pullbacks in here, but be careful. I just can't see this thing running indefinitely toward the upside, that it at some point will come crashing back down. And if it is based on Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey, or maybe as early as this week or next week, the tariffs. What if the tariffs have to come back? The markets could start tanking, and when the markets risk on, risk off, and we get financial crisis, you tend to see the yen strengthen, and you tend to see this thing come correcting back down. So pay me now, pay me later. This run up the train is gonna stop at some point, and then it's gonna come back down. So be extremely careful. I do not make a habit of trading along in the Forex market when I have a monthly, a weekly, and a daily in extreme overbought conditions, right? So what am I waiting for? The opportunity to get to a short position. And we've done it a few times, made a few hundred pips, got pipped out, a few hundred pips, got pipped out. And I don't mind the fact that, well, you missed a few hundred pips to the upside. So what? Monthly, weekly, and daily sitting in extremes, this is not just going to keep going straight up. Eventually, it's going to start turning. And when it does, I'm going to take advantage of it. And if we do get the financial crisis, this thing could drop maybe somewhere in between the 13,000s on the smaller pullback, 2,700, but on that bigger picture where we drop 9,000 pips over here, 13,000 on that financial crisis, what about the next one? Maybe we go somewhere in between and do 11,000. We shall see. Fair enough? All righty. Well, it's all about the markets. What are the markets going to do? ES has been the leader. It's been leading the pack, all-time highs. We went up to those extensions we talked about last week. And we said that based on this close above the 618, we were likely going to make a run toward that 7,000. We did it, and we kind of pulling back off of that. That's typical when you reach your extensions and then you get the pullback. So be careful. That's typical. Are we going to go higher? I don't think this is the end of the blow off top yet, but we are due for some sort of pullback. So B, if you're in this grind higher, every time we get a little bit of a pullback, like going into yesterday, we got this pullback because of the Trump tweets and looking at the Fed for losing about $3 trillion over budget. Well, no, I mean $3 billion over budget on their remodels. Crazy what's going on. But as soon as it dips, the bulls just step back in and start buying again. So I'm not trying to tell you that look out below. This is going to be Elizabeth. I'm coming to join you. But we are due for a pullback. But be sure if you're shorting anything on a pullback that you take aggressive profits, because as we've seen the last multiple dips, the bulls just step right back in to buy. Amen? All righty. But that technical picture, we reached, let's go to say an hour, and we can show you that we reached those extensions off this recent pullback. Right here off the recent pullback, we reached the extensions, and after you reach your extensions, hit the 272 like a clockwork. Notice that random, we ran up, pull back, touched, bingo. Now we're pulling back again. So anytime I'm in these type of trades and we break the 618, we go for our targets. When you get up there, definitely be taking profits up here, because typically you just don't rip straight up and continue. You typically go reach, you pull back, you go to the next one, you pull back, and maybe the next logical point would be to come back and retest the Magic Fibo. The bulls tend to step in when it dips. We'll see if this behavior continues. but we are due for that pullback after reaching the extensions. No surprise that we're seeing that. NASDAQ has been underperforming, totally underperforming. Randy, this is a different story, right, Mr. Tucson? Different story. The NASDAQ, let's go out to the daily first. The NASDAQ has not broken all-time highs recently. Hadn't done that in a while. Back over here in October, we pulled back and we've been struggling in this area. It's starting to look like it wants to break out, but if we can clear this hurdle up here and we start clearing above the swing point, I'd give it a little wiggle room, but we can start closing above 26,000 on a daily candle basis, not a wick. These wicks don't count. When we start closing above that 26,000 on a candle basis, a full body, then we got some nice upside, 26.7, 27, maybe even look for 27 plus. But we've been underperforming. And if this continues, we still may need this additional down move. We've been struggling in here, struggling. So either we're going to go popping up toward the extensions, make a move toward that 26.7 slash 27,000, or we're going to get a push back toward the Magic Fibo. But the more we chop and grind and failure to break out, bigger potential we have of coming back and maybe retesting the Magic Fibo. All right, so be careful. Why do we think that's coming sooner than later, but no later than later? Kind of like the pound yen, the euro yen. We got a monthly overbought, we got a weekly overbought, we got a daily in overbought territory after this grind. So we can go over here to software and show you what we're talking about. Come over here and look at our S&P 500. Daily's back in overbought territory. Weekly's in overbought territory. Monthly's in overbought territory. So again, when I see this, I'm not convinced that this thing is just going to keep going straight up forever. We're due for something much bigger on a pullback. Something is coming. When the monthly starts turning over right now, it's still flat, flat to up. So sure, this thing could grind higher like it's been doing. But at some point, I start to look for what we call a PAI hook and a trend momentum cross. When the PAI hooks and the trend momentum crosses, that's when you get what? And this is a monthly, you get a weekly cycle down. When the monthly hooks and crosses, you get a weekly cycle down. Even over here, when the monthly hooks and crosses, you get a weekly cycle down, and a weekly cycle is big moves. So be careful. This run is eventually going to do what? Turn over. It's just a matter of when, not if. So is it going to be the Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey? Or are we just going to continue this punch junk euphoria and the markets continue to grind up? Doesn't take much. Like I said, we have to pay back those tariffs. I don't even know how you would go about doing that. But you never know what they'll rule on it. So I could imagine the markets will sell off big. That's billions of dollars. That's not easy to fix. But you get my drift that this is conducive to this uptrend eventually stopping and getting some sort of nice retracement back down. Amen? And again, when we get them all up there together, monthly, weekly, and daily, it's time to take caution and expect at some point this punch junk euphoria is going to give us a correction. And what we love about this software is when we get a daily PAI hook and trend momentum cross, See a little steep slope angle separation? The 4-hour cycle's down. When we get a weekly to hook and cross, the daily cycle's down. When we get a monthly to hook and cross, the weekly cycle's down. It's a cool thing, and it's a high probability outcome. Got it? So be careful on these. If you think this is just going to 7,000 and we're going to rip to 7,200, it might. But at some point, the monthly, weekly, and daily are going to join forces, and we're going to start to see a monthly hook, weekly cycle down, daily hook, 4-hour cycle down, weekly hook, daily cycle down. That's when you can start to look for the correction. And it's a matter of time. Amen? All righty. So back at the picture, the big picture. I don't think we're done to the upside, but I would not be surprised to see a pullback. Fair enough? So be careful. Be in a position of authority, and this has been underperforming. So this may very well need one more push lower to set up, giving it enough oomph. Maybe it needs to come back and recharge the batteries to bounce off the Magic Fibo to set up the bounce to get into the bubble up here. But it's definitely been underperforming. The other one that's been overperforming is the Russell. How about the Russell? It went up to our target zone and went up. We said it was likely it's going to go test that 27. We didn't quite get to 27 yet. I think that's a matter of time. But this is grinding. We got the pullback, hit the Magic Fibo to recharge, allowed it to reach our extensions. So do we need yet another little pullback? Maybe retest where we broke out from to then get up to that 27 and change? I still think we're going to head up that direction, but at some point, I think we need a little bit of a pullback as well. Same thing with IWM. We talked about reaching the 259, 261 area. That was our target. Before that was 255, 258. We reached those targets, got a pullback, went on to the next extensions. So, Randy, I'd be careful up here as well. Same rules. Look at the software and you look at the Russell. Do I have the Russell in here? I think it's in my other platform, but the Russell's getting overextended. And we can come over here to Ninja Trader, see if I can pull the Russell up on this one. IWM, but you can see ES on this one and Ninja Trader 8. At extensions, you're looking at where it reached, then we're at extremes, so no reason to believe we're not going to get a pullback. Daily starts turning over, we get a little hook across, steep slope angle separation, and next thing you know, Emil, we got a 4-hour cycling down. But come over here to the IWM, and we see what that looks like. And again, the same thing. Daily's at extremes, pushing. Still think there's more upside, but I think we need to depressurize. Maybe we get a little daily slingshot back up, but the daily's overbought. Weekly's overbought. Monthly's overbought. So is this thing going to go up forever? No. Are we due to turn over at some point? Well, look at the last time our monthly hooked and crossed. See that? Right there, monthly hook, monthly cross. Bring our arrows into the picture. When you get the PAI hook and the trend momentum cross, you get steep slope, you get angle separation. What happens? That's the monthly, right? What happens? You get a weekly cycle down. It's a thing of beauty. The weekly did what during that monthly hook and a cross? The weekly cycled down. The weekly cycled down. What a thing of beauty. Now what? We reached the targets up here. I'd be careful. Very cautious at these nosebleed sections, even though we'll probably get the Russell to push toward that 2,700. That kind of looks like an area it wants to go to. So what would IWM? start to push toward maybe 270. Not exactly when Russell hits 2,700, it's going to hit 270 exactly. It's close, but that was the plan. And we're at extremes again, daily, weekly, and monthlies. We need some sort of pullback. So if you were in this and you reach those targets, I'd definitely be taking profits. Fair enough. So coming back over here, after reaching those extensions, yes, we could go a little higher. Confluence of events for this one is that 266, 265 area. So maybe we need a little bit of a pullback first, retest the previous breakout, bounce off of that, and then we get up there. But I would look for a dip, and then we get a dip, then we could buy the dip and start to shoot for that 265, 266. Maybe we could push into 270, but still think we need a pullback. Even the Dow, still think it's going to reach 50,000. We didn't quite get there yet. Got a high of 49.6, it looks like. So we didn't quite get there, but I still think we're going to eventually get up there. But the story is the same. We're overextended. We're getting kind of exhausted. We probably need another little bit of a pullback here. We do have FOMC coming up at the end of the month. We have some releases coming out. CPI was a little bit better than expected today. I think I have it over on this one. We have CPI that came out a little bit better than expected. The core CPI came out better than expected. On this one, it's called X Food and Energy. On other platforms like uh, Forex Factory, et cetera, if you use that one, that's what they call the core CPI. Came in a little bit better than expected. The year over year came in a little bit better than expected, where the normal CPI came in as expected. Amen. So that gave us an initial a little bit of a pop into the release, and then now the markets are selling off. New home sales says it's being delayed, so we'll get some more data. Then tomorrow we have PPI says it's being delayed. We'll see if it comes out. Then retail sales. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And that's the delayed version. And then we got retail sales on Thursday. So between the behind scheduled delayed ones released and then the new ones scheduled, CPI, PPI, and retail sales, with some earnings, we have some catalysts this week. Is it enough to push the markets higher, or we're going to get some bad news from the SCOTUS, or what's going to happen? We shall see. We shall see. But in closing, I would be extremely cautious on these markets to the upside right now. We probably need that pullback. And again, across the board, we showed you why. All of these are at extremes. NASDAQ, same thing. Weekly at extremes, kind of just grinding, and it's been weaker than the bunch, right? But my weekly still in overbought territory. My monthly is in overbought territory. And the daily has been grinding, but it too is in that overbought territory ish after grinding back up. So this is not looking conducive to this thing just going ripping higher. We need some sort of catalyst, and typically you need a little bit of a pullback in there before that happens. Fair enough? So I would not suggest going long all of these markets expecting this thing's just going to go ripping higher when my monthly, weekly, and daily are at extreme. I'm a trend pullback continuation type of trader mostly. So I love to see the pullbacks, then buy the dips and look for trend continuation. So this is struggling. Do we need this to A, all of this to B, and we need one more C? All I know is we get a big sell off down in the Magic Fibo area, and I see a daily oversold like we had over here, then that interests me to buy the dip like we discussed. Amen? and we kind of warned you about the pullback. Then once it happened, so there's a good opportunity to buy the dip, because I still thought this is not the end of the move. We eventually go breaking out, but when you're struggling and you can't do it, typically you might need to come back and recharge before you go blasting off. Amen? So, am I guaranteeing this thing's going to tank and come down here? The Dow, the NASDAQ, they're all going to come back down and visit this? Well, this is the one that's been underperforming. If we can start to close above that 26,000, then the door's ajar for us to go to 26.7 slash maybe 27,000. Still think we're going to get up in here, but we probably, based on the software, based on this grind and this lackluster performance, we might need a push lower. Amen? So be careful. Close above 26,000 on a daily basis, not just a wick, the candle body. Then by all means, we can start to shoot for the targets like we discussed that with ES. When we had the pullback, we closed above the 618 and we said we would target this 715, kind of reach that target on a smaller scale. When I showed you that on the hourly, we went up and reached both the 1448 and the 1272. And 1448, ladies and gentlemen, is not a physical and an actual Fibonacci level. It is 90% of the 1272. But look how this comes into play. Beautiful. So, is this the end of the pullback and the bulls are going to get by the dip, or do we need something bigger? Well, monthly, weekly, and daily still extremely overbought. And yes, this has been the momentum where you get a little sell off, the bulls step in, you get a sell off, they step in every time. Even yesterday with the big swing, then it rallied to break new highs before we got the turnover. So be careful. Amen. Just be cautious on this. And if we do get the bigger pullback, great. Then we can reset and look for a nice little buy of the dip and look for the next push. Amen? All right. What about our global liquidity? Is it going to go breaking out? Is it going to struggle and pull back? We got a big run. That's on a daily. We'll go back to this daily. We did reach the extension up here. We had discussed that we thought was a high probability target. Why? From the recent high to low, we closed above the 618. Thought about it, pulled back, grinded. We eventually broke out, retested, and then we reached it. So, could this go higher? Sure. I think before we're done, we're probably going to push up on this global liquidity somewhere around the 60,000 range, right? So I do think this is going to grind higher. This is what we were looking for, that 55 to 60,000 range, somewhere in that ballpark. But now that we reach these extensions, we may need a pullback first and might even need a bigger pullback before we can get up to that target. But that's kind of what I'm thinking we're going to do. And all I can say is, ladies and gentlemen, if this global liquidity, as we use the Nikkei, that's all I use it for, is like a barometer, global liquidity indicator. And if we can start ripping towards 60,000, that should pull the NASDAQ. The ES up here further up would be there, and pull some of these other markets higher with it. But again, once you reach those extensions, you typically just don't keep going straight up. You get pullbacks, then continuations. So this is why I don't think this is the end of the bubble and we're ready for Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey, yet. I do think we got more upside, but we're in these extended areas and we likely need some sort of pullback. So is it going to be another tweet? Is there going to be some more tariff talk? Is it going to be something else? The technical picture is the same. Had the big run up, had this correction, all this chopping, overlapping. Yes, we still broke out, but This still looks corrective that we may need this before we can get up to that 60,000 up there. But I still think that's where we're headed before we're done. Okay. So any questions on that? The word of the day, which it's been since last week, a little cautious to the upside. Yes, I thought we'd reach those extensions when price proved its intentions by closing above the 618. We did the extensions. Now we're likely need a pullback, and then we can look for the next pullback. And Randy, it depends where that pullback lands. But if it lands and we get a nice little pullback off of this, then we'll just run a new extension like we did here. We get a pullback, you break the 618, you target the 1448, 1272. You reach those targets. Again, we did it off of the smaller one. You get the targets, and then you look for a pullback. You typically just don't hit the 1272, 1618, 272, just go straight up. You typically get some sort of pullback. And that's what's showing here. We did the same thing. We kind of went to those extensions, touched them. Now we're kind of pulled back. Do we get a bigger one? I'd like to see a big pullback so then we could buy the dip and look for a much bigger run up. What about black gold Texas tea? Are we there yet? We actually testing the Magic Fibo. Been looking for that test, right, Mr. Tucson? Others, ever since we got this new low and we bounced, I've been looking for this test to go up and touch it here. Last time we did it was way back in September, and then failed to make the new low. And on these bounces, I said, well, as the Magic Fibo is in a declining mode, we're probably going to go and test it. So this is going to be very important. Was this new low enough to warrant this is reversing? Or is this just a correction into the Magic Fibo to get rejected for us to go down to 50? Up and until price proves otherwise, I still think we need a big plunge, a quick little plunge down in here to correct all of this overlapping action to give us a new swing point low. I mean, it's possible that new low there was enough, but it's not when you look at the bigger picture. We didn't get a new low over here. Came close, but not quite. So this is why I think we're probably still need one more flush lower. So be careful on this rally. We did talk about it when this would start ripping higher. We were likely going to see this little guy dip. And we talked about it here, took some profits on a nice little several dollar run. And now we're getting the inverse of that. So, Mr. Tucson, what is this likely to do if oil prices are going to reject off the Magic Fibo and go down to 50, for example? What is this SCO going to do? Shoot up. Amen? So, I'm not convinced that this oil prices have made the low and now we're ready to go reversing. It's possible, but still lower probability until when? We're below the Magic Fibo. So that's why when you're below the Magic Fibo, you're still more likely going to get a rejection. So Dan and others, why is this going up? It's the software. Software kind of gave us that inkling that we were due for a bounce because we were oversold. Monthly's oversold. Weekly was oversold. We'll just look at it software, monthly. Come over here to time frame, weekly. Turning up. Well, I still think we're going to probably get this to slingshot lower yet again. Larger one. I'm not convinced this is the breakout where we go ripping higher just yet. And the daily is cycling up. So you come over here to time frames, daily. We're getting overbought. So, Mr. Toussaint, when I see what? The technical picture says we probably need another flush. And then I have the software saying we need, after the daily cycled, into the Magic Fibo and a big resistance zone up here. We're probably going to get rejected like we did the last time. And the daily hooks, I'm going to sell it. So when my daily hooks down, I'm going to sell it. So how does that work with the software? You go into Expert Advisor properties and you look at putting bigger moves in here so we can sustain this. Just to put some numbers in there so it'll accept this deal. And what do we want to do? We want to take a trigger short. So I don't want to trigger long. I want to trigger short. And I don't want to slingshot long. I want to trigger short. And I don't want to slingshot short because we're in overbought territory. So all I want to do is get a trigger short on that. Come over here, say that, and then you click ready to trade mode. And if it takes a day, it takes 2 days, it takes 3 days. When this baby starts turning and hooking, we're going to get a trigger short, and that'll enter a short move. So Dan and others, like we triggered long there to go up on the weekly, in this case, the daily reverse. Now I'm looking to sell that rally when the trigger fires and the PAI hooks. Got it? So you don't get a trigger till you hook. We wait for that to hook, we get a trigger, and this baby enters a short trade. So the bias is still we're more likely going to get a new swing point low than this thing's going to go breaking out. But again, I got to warn you based on this new low over here, it's possible that slight new low was enough. But I still think, in my humble opinion, we're going to dip down in here at 50 bucks or lower. Once we do that, then I want to shift all attention to UCO, which is popping today with CL. It moves in the direction of CL. It gives us a little leverage, ultra. So you get a little leverage action on that move. But I'm still thinking this is going to reject, get a dip when oil prices dip to 50 and lower. So what I'm waiting to do to take that position, when I see oil prices at 50 and lower, and likely going to see this UCO somewhere around that 16 to 15 or lower, when it does, I want to buy some shares, and then wait for oil price to dip in the 50s and lower and then reverse and go shooting out. Is it possible it's already doing it and I'm missing the trade? Maybe. Maybe. But I still think we're higher probability going to dip to 50 and lower. That'll cause this UCO to dip down in this lower levels. And then I'll look for this thing to go ripping higher once oil reaches that 50 and lower. And we kind of said that a while back. Let me get that out of the way. Kind of said that a while back. I guess it's in this platform where we had our right there. When oil price hits 50 or lower, consider UCO. Still waiting for that to happen. Still awaiting. Amen. Well, here's an exciting potential trade setup. Meta slash METU. Let's take a quick look at Meta and what that looks like. And we got a little bit of a pullback, and we may get what we're looking for. We'll start off on the charting platform first. Come over here to Meta. So let me get Meta on this chart. Yeah, we're getting what I look for, right? So we want it to come down toward that 630-ish kind of area. Here's my Magic Fibo. So if we get this, we got off the initial move, we bounced, went up, did a 618 Magic Fibo combo meal type of move. I've been waiting for this thing to dip down to where we are now, and I want to see it hold. So from the recent high to low, you want to see it break above that 618 of that. That sets the tone. If we can start breaking out like that, we have the potential for this trade to go up to, believe it or not, Ripley's, believe it or not, 1100 to 1300. Wow, that's pretty huge. For Meta to basically double, and it's probably going to take us maybe 27, maybe 28. So I'm not trying to tell you if this setup works. It's going to be something I need to get in today and I need to exit by next week. No, we're talking a couple of years, maybe. Maybe it's all of 26 into 27. Maybe it pushes even into 28. But I do think this setup is setting up because I like it's a Magic Fibo combo meal where you get a 618 slash Magic Fibo bounce. That's the combo meal. And that typically forces this thing to overachieve. Amen. So I want to see this hold. I don't want to see new lows down here. I want to see this area hold, which is this support zone. So basically the Magic Fibo from the 618 down to 786, which is the Magic Fibo right there. Want to see that hold, then bounce, and from the recent high to that new low, whatever it is, maybe it's here, maybe it's a little bit lower. We break the 618, starts to set the tone, but that does set up the much bigger trade, which would put us up here in that 11 to 1300, my target zone up there. And this is why I'm thinking about using METU leverage product. Amen. That's the leverage version without using options that we expected this would pull back into this zone. And what we'd like to see in the short term is this correction hold. Looks like a little three wave that holds. We go bouncing. But eventually, I want to see this break above the Magic Fibo, retest it, and set the tone. And this thing could set up some massive move higher on this leverage product, right? So, what if Meta does what we think it's going to do, and we're looking for it to do? And we showed you this on the chart the other day, so I'll just revisit it. What if Meta runs from this area and we're just a little bit below where we need to be? So let me get this over here and pull this down to that low where we currently are, somewhere in the zone. And then we get Meta to make a run towards, we said 11 to 13, we kind of split the difference. And we say it's going to make a run to 1200. Instead of 11, instead of 13, let's just go half of that. That'd be roughly a 93% run. Well, if you use a leverage product times two, that would put us upwards of about 186, 187. And what if METU, now again, I got to adjust this because it's pulling back because of Meta's pullback, but what if we did something like that and we got a move that was about 187%? So I got to move this way and we get a 187%. That put us about 80 bucks from 28 bucks. Not too shabby. Now, again, I can't tell you what to do. No buy, sell, the whole recommendation. I'm not a certified financial planner. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I'm looking for this to do. And this is a few year trade. So what do? You buy shares of METU and you get a little something, something during dividends. Not a lot, but every little bit helps. A little something, something, and a little something, something. And Mr. Tucson will be buying some shares and I'm going to hold them and look for this to go ripping higher over the next 2 to 3 years. And while I'm holding it, and this price should double, maybe triple from 30 to 60. Maybe we overextend and get a little higher than 80. We go to 9. Maybe that thing pushes toward that 1300 target. So if I can hold this over the next couple of years or so, and it doubles in price, and I get some dividends per quarter in here, or every time they throw out some dividend, that'll just be a little added bonus. And that's kind of the plan. Big picture, I think we have this METU's a relatively new ETF. As you can see, we don't have the data, but you come back to Meta, and there's no reason to believe that this won't play out. I just kind of buy and hold Meta, get your pullbacks, buy and hold. And we think after this recent pullback, as long as we hold that level, what we're looking for, we break above that 618, sets the tone for yes, we got upside targets along the way before we get to the big target, but that's kind of the plan is way up here, 1100 to 1300. Amen? All righty. So that's what I'm looking to do. I kept telling you, Emil, over and over and over that I was looking for Meta to dip down at that 630 or lower. And so far, we're there, buddy. So I'll probably just do a little nibble by, a few shares of my METU. And if it goes lower and it still holds, then we'll start to add. And then when it starts to show true signs of breaking out, probably add some more. So cost amortization. Well, Gary, why wouldn't you buy every share down here and buy some more up here? Well, once price proves itself that not only do we have what we're looking for on this recent low bounce, but if we start breaking the 618, it gives us extensions to go higher, and it sets the tone on the much bigger picture. This recent pullback here, combo meal, 618 retracement slash Magic Fibo bounce sets the tone for the much bigger move. Amen? In fact, I think I'm going to go ahead and buy a few shares while we're at that 625 area. This is a good area right between that 630 and 608 was what I was looking for. So we're kind of in the middle. All right, that's the plan. And I'm looking for this to bounce in the next few years. Again, hint, hint, hint. We're not trying to tell you buy it today because by the end of the year of this year, we're going to be way up here at 11, 1200. Anything's possible. But I think over the next few years, it's going to grind higher. Got it? All righty. Let's continue. What about yellow gold? With all this insanity, we did pop to make an all-time new high again. Woohoo! Are we going to continue this and go up to 45, 49? Do we reach 5,000 before we get the pullback? Well, this gold train isn't going to run forever. Right? This gold train isn't going to run forever, and it's been on a tear. So that's why we talked about this. Yes, I was the biggest proponent, go back years ago, and I kept saying gold's going to go. We go back to this monthly picture. And in our archives, I talked about when it reached this 1900, made a bold statement, not a prediction, but I anticipate with the best of them, with God-given talent to read and interpret price on a chart, that we were going to go down to 1,000 before we went up to 3,000. And sure enough, took a while to get there. We reached the 1,000 range, and then we went ripping. Yeah, a little underestimate. I said 3,000. Well, we're up to 4,600. Still think we're going to get a pullback eventually. Then more upside long term, sure. But we need some sort of pullback. And it should be pretty substantial when it finally happens. So those of you in long-term investment, that's fine. Short-term investment, I'd be taking profits because we're due, and I've been warning you about that. We got a $400 pullback here when I warned it. We got another 400, but I thought it would be deeper, and we're going insanity. That's parabolic. And what do we know about parabolic moves? They don't last forever, and eventually you're going to get a pullback. Got it? So, yet gold is doing the same thing, monthly overbought, weekly overbought, daily overbought. I like buying dips and trend continuations. So, please be careful that you think gold's just going to keep rising. Maybe it does. I mean, this insanity can continue, but at some point it is going to drop. And when you start to hear everybody, including the plumber, the electrician, your grocer, your lawn service, everybody and their brothers talking about, man, I'm buying gold. I'm buying gold. That's when everybody gets in. They got the FOMO, they're missing out. They didn't buy down here where we told you to and look for the move. They're buying way up here now, thinking, well, I got to get on this train. That's when the psychology of a market cycle kicks in and that baby comes plummeting. So you may not think it can happen, it does. So it's just a matter of time. So this gold train will not run forever. It needs a pullback. Amen. So please be careful. And again, if you're a long-term investment, fine. I'd still be taking some profits. If you're short term, definitely be taking profits because we do need some sort of pullback. And look at silver, 80s. Mr. Tucson, what did I promise a while back? And I said, I guarantee we were going 60, 70. Well, there you go. We reached it and then some. Even futures, 60, 70, reached it. Even our SLV, look at that, 60, 70 guarantee, reached it. Huh. Now what? You get these parabolic moves, eventually the train's going to stop. Parabolic move, eventually the train is going to stop. So if you're anything like me, we talked about buying this, shooting for those targets, and look where we are. Yeah, you could think, well, Emil, this thing's going to keep going. I'm just going to stay. I'm going to buy more up here. It's going higher. I don't know. I'd be careful. We reached where we needed to be. We went beyond where we needed to be. And this thing is parabolic. What's next? 95, 108. I do think long term, we should be up in the 140s up here and higher, certainly. But I'm not convinced we're just going to go straight from where we are straight up there, that we need some sort of pullback. All I can say is we get a big sell off and a pullback, and everybody starts crying and complaining. Well, I got in gold and silver just too late. I missed it, but I did the FOMO, fear of missing out. I got in and it tanked, and I took a shellacking. And when I sold, I'm going to be there to buy it because I do think it's going much higher, but we do need a pullback. Amen. So please do yourself a favor. If you were in this to shoot for these targets, we exceeded them. Yes, it could go higher, but nothing wrong, as they always say. You never go broke taking profits. I'm not trying to tell you this thing is done. I just think it needs a pullback, and the deeper it pulls back, the more I'm going to reload for the next extensions. 95, 108, 145, 168. I do think we're going to get up here, but I just don't think it's going to be this parabolic move straight up there. Anything is possible with the crazy environment and tweets and this, that, and the other going down. Anything is possible, but I do like pullback trend continuations. Fair enough? So, any questions on gold and silver? I'd be cautious up here at these nosebleed sections. That again, if you're short-term investment on that move, definitely be taking profits. We do need a pullback. The bigger the pullback, the more I like it, for the fact that then I could buy it again, reinvest at a lower price for the longer haul. But it's going to come. Pay me now, pay me later. We're going to get a substantial. The train is going to stop, and we're going to get that psychology of a market cycle bringing us back down. and then we can reinvest, take all of those profits and reinvest at a much lower price. Okay? All right. What about, I didn't look at my Tesla. Let's go up here to Mr. Tesla. Where's Tesla? There he is. This too is setting up Mr. Tucson and others for the big run. Is it going to make it the end of this year? Is it going to do it later? Or do we need yet another pullback? But Tesla's setting up just like we had discussed. Still think we're going to 550 to 650 range is extremely high probability. Could we extend this thing out to much further? What I like about this is, I own TSLL. Talked about that in great detail. Go back in several months back. And last October of 24, when TSLL was below 10 bucks, made a bold statement that Tesla was going to run toward 500, and this would make a nice run. And it went from below 10 up to 41.50. We got the next pullback. Yet again, Emil, we got these lows again. I was like, started nibbling and buying and buying and buying. And here we are, expecting this thing to go ripping. We've more than tripled right now from where we were buying down in this low. And I still expect there's a lot more upside, hint, 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 in my humble opinion, when Tesla goes ripping. But in order for us to get to some extensions up here in the 40s and 50s and push for the absurdity, Mr. Tesla's going to have to run toward 800. Right? So we think the 650, 550 to 650 range up in here is very high probability. My target right there. So I'll zoom that in a little bit for you. This is my target, Randy. Highest probability. Could we overachieve and get this baby to push toward 800? If it does, then that would put our TSLL even further. So watch this little magic. Let me come down to say a 3-day so I can condense this and give you a little. Now let's go to weekly, kind of split the difference. So we believe high probability we're going up here. I would say extremely high probability we're going up there. Amen. We got our recent 618 bounce starting to look good. We take the high to this low. We get above that 618. Kind of gives us shorter term extensions, but the big picture is up here. And that would be, let's just give you an idea from where we are. Actually, we'll take it from this low over here, from where we were. If that's where the correction is over and we run up to our 650-ish, somewhere about a 50% run, that means that TSLL would give us 100%. And if we go up to 800, 900 range, that would put us about 100%, 99-ish, close to 100. So what happens if we do that math on this right here, right, Mr. Tucson? What if that would put us about 200%, and that would get us up in here in the $50 range? Wow, 19 bucks to 50. I like it. More than a double. Could be working on a triple like the last time in October. We showed you that. Come back over here. Back in October of 24, you can scroll down. October 24, right there. Boom. Right there. Expect Tesla to make a move toward 500. Consider the TSLL trade. That's where it went from, and it's not making this up, what we talked about, that it would go from below 10 up to 41.50, not too shabby. So We talked about it again when it started pulling back, and I'm still looking for this thing to go way higher. So that's where the plan is, Randy, for this baby to get up into more than likely the 40s, probably maybe even reach our bubble up here to extremes. But if we get it and it overachieves, this is part of the area where it would likely go. If we get an overachiever in Mr. Tesla, then this TSLL may be the overachiever and get us up into our bubble. Am I guaranteeing it? No. But I do think worst case scenario, even under the worst of conditions, Tesla's a big flop. I still think we're going to get into the 30s, which when we started buying down here at $6, that's quite the run. And still think there's a lot more upside. So this would be, if it's a total dud, it's going to get into the mid 30s. If it overachieves like we think it probably will, we want to push into the 40s, maybe as high as the 60s. But again, there's no way TSLL is going to rush into the 60s without Mr. Tesla pushing that 900. And it's not out of the question. Amen. So again, this is another one like Meta and MetU. We got Tesla and TESLL right there. We've been in this. We made a lot of money previously. We're looking to make some more, expecting this thing to climb. But I can't tell you what to do. It's what I'm doing. And I do think the technical picture supports this thing ripping higher, as Tesla is expected to go ripping minimum up into the 550 to 650 range. That's the minimum target, in my humble opinion. And if you want to see that on I have my Tesla on here. I just throw Mr. Tesla in here. Randy, watch this. Put a little Tesla. As I'm working off of my laptop, my memory should be coming back my way so I can get back on my desktop. But this is setting up, beautiful move. And you come over here and we use the Fibonacci's on that. So you go under drawing tools, come back to Fibonacci retracements like you see on the charting platform. And we look at this measured bounce from the swing point low up to the swing point high. Beautiful 618 bounce. Beautiful. This is off the recent daily. But you go even further out, and we saw one of those in the past, which was this bigger picture. So go to drawing tools, Fibonacci, MPA Fibonacci retracement. And anybody that has NinjaTrader and you know using their Fibonacci's that's built in is a lot of trouble. This makes it easy breezy. It's part of our software. But we got this much bigger 618786 bounce, and we went on to the extension. Now we're pulling back. So looking at the bigger picture on this, Mr. Tucson and others, it shows a lot more upside to be had. And you use the inverse of that. You come back over here and do it the opposite direction. And this is why these numbers keep coming back into play from that recent high down to this low. That sets up here. Next up, we're getting through these in the 500 range. We got 600 up there. You continue to go higher. There's your 800. So this isn't out of the question that Mr. Tesla can rip up towards 800. Not out of the question. I just think it's a no-brainer that we're going to make this run toward this bubble up here, my 550 to 650 area. Amen. Kind of targeted that a long time ago. It's working on it, and I still think it's going to get there. Amen. And if it overachieves and it starts pushing 8 or 900, then Mr. TSLL is going to overachieve and start pushing bubble hunting for, excuse me, 40s, 50s, maybe even to the 60s. Amen. That's kind of the plan. So I own it and I'm looking for more upside. And if you joined us late, still looking for this MTU, looking starting to bounce a little bit, looking for this to go higher. So METU, $28 range. Could it go lower? Sure, but still looking to start nibbling and go into some major upside on that. All righty. So, any questions? Let's continue. What about Bitcoin? Still just grinding and chopping. So disappointed. We need to start threading the needle. Am I trying to think that Bitcoin is over and it's doom and gloom? No, but we need to see a lot more upside. I don't like the fact that rallies and rejects, rallies, rejects, rallies, rejects. I'd like to see this start breaking out. When do we get very bullish again on Bitcoin from the recent high to low? We get above 108. That would set the tone right around that 108 target. That we'd go to all-time highs. I don't want to see this rally to a lower high and a lower low. So in the interim, Mr. Tucson, Randy, James, Ian, we're just kind of chopping and grinding. But I need to see some movement toward the upside. And that would be nice to see us start breaking above 108. Then it clearly sets the tone. We're going to all-time highs again. In the interim, I want to see us break above the Magic Fibo on the daily chart. That was the weekly. I want to see us break above the Magic Fibo on the daily because that's the first warm and real fuzzy we can start to feel. We got the pullback, we held, we grinding. So far, we're just chopping, but we got to get out of this zone and we need to get above the Magic Fibo. So this would be a very good sign that we're getting some more upside for us to not only rally, but rally, break above, retest, and set the tone by breaking back above that 108. So if I see that, then I think we're definitely going to see all-time highs again. Break above the Magic Fibo, come back and retest, then bounce and close above that 108 up here. That sets the tone for all-time new highs, setting up 132, 138, and that's getting awfully close to what our original target, about 150. Amen? So the reason I haven't given up on this, it's not the same, but yet it's very similar. You go back in the last crypto halving run, and we had a big run up, had a massive correction come back down. It was doom and gloom, a good 54% decline off of that. It chopped and grinded. It looked like it was never going to do anything. And then all of a sudden it did what, Randy? Ripped to a new high. So the same rule, you get the high, you get the low, you close above the 618, kind of sets the tone, you go into the extension. It went right to it. Right to it. Can't make this stuff up. So is this what we're going through right now? Had the big run up, big pullback, chopped and grind until everybody lost interest. Then it went ripping to new highs. Will we get a ditto of that? Because our pullback from all-time highs down to the recent 80 low is not quite 54%. It's less than that. So maybe we're doing one of these again. All right. I'm not trying to tell you, I guarantee it's going higher, but back here in 2022, when I made a bold statement, Bitcoin below 20,000 is an absolute steal of a deal. It's a crime to be able to buy something this low because it was going to go so much higher. Well, there you have it. Is that the end, Mr. Tucson? Do we go higher? We got to thread the needle. We got to get above 108 to set the tone. We're going to make all-time new highs. But I haven't given up because this over here did similar. If you zoom in on that, We just kind of chopped and grind and looked pretty futile that it was ever going to go blasting. And then boom, it blasted. So how do we know it's going to blast? Get above 108 would set the tone. We're going to make a move toward these 132, 138, maybe even push toward that 150s. Got it? As long as we hold below above 80, that's a good start. So you drill down to the daily time frame, and what's the first warm and fuzzy, even though my daily's turning over and pushing lower, the Magic Fibo? We need to get above it. That sets the tone. So having below the Magic Fibo is bearish, above the Magic Fibo is bullish, and that's where we want to get back above. Because even during that pullback here, we were below it. It looked bearish. We chopped. And then we did what? Blew back above and then went on to rip and even tested a couple of times to bounce even higher. So getting back above the Magic Fibo is the first warm and fuzzy. Closing above 108, Harold then says, yeah, we got a much higher percent chance we're going to make all-time new highs again. So are we going to do what we did back in the last halving, which is off to the left? I showed you on that 3-day. Is it going to be this where we do go breaking all-time highs again? Or we're going to break below 80, set the tone? Well, I do know one thing based on price action, Randy. Let me zoom in on that daily for you. And if we break below 80, we're going to go make a run towards 74, 75. Right? Last thing I'd want to see is that we rally and fail, break below 80, come down about 74, 75, and then bounce off of there in like a three-wave move and make a run toward maybe 100, 105-ish, and more of a, let me fix that, that looks a little off kilter. But we go up here, fail, we break down about 74, 5 range. Then we do a three-wave correction and we reach like 100, 105-ish. That could set the tone for us to go lower, down towards 70 or even lower. So we're going to keep an eye on this. We need to break above the Magic Fibo. That's a start. Keep grinding above 108. That sets the tone. We're going to make all-time highs again. Otherwise, we falter and break a new low. Then we break 80. Hint, hint, hint. We break 80. I think we're definitely going to decline towards 74, 75. And if we do that, bounce, and we get like a three-wave move up that gets to near 100 or so and stops, that kind of sets crypto winter is here. And all crypto winter means is we're going to get 12 months. And if it ends up being that swing point high, it'll be 12 months from October. So that would put us in late 2026 for this thing to bottom. So what's the strategy moving forward? Once we get into the nibble zone down here, 50,000 and lower, I'm a buyer like I was for Bitcoin in 2022 at 20,000 and lower. Amen? So the moment I see Bitcoin at 50,000 or lower, which maybe we don't get that low, but all I know is when it triggers 50 or lower, I'm a buyer. And when? The next halving is going to be in 2028, the next blue line over here, and we'll look for the same type of cycles. Do we get crypto winter now? Do we pop up here first, then crypto winter, then we go into there? We shall see. But hint, 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 anytime Bitcoin it hits 50,000 or lower, set an alert to start buying it. If you don't want to buy Bitcoin in a crypto broker account like Coinbase and some of those, you can start buying some of the Bitcoin ETFs. A lot of those to choose from. Fair enough? So that's the plan, to look for at some point, late 26, maybe this pushes out into 26 to do that run. Then we come later into late 26, 27. We'll kind of give you some guidance when we get down there. I know buy, sell, and hold, but I'm going to tell you based on the technical picture, like I was screaming from the rooftops back in 2022 when we were down here below 20,000. I was like, man, this is a steal of a deal. You need to get some of this because it's going to go ripping. Because at the end, we get one more push, but it's rinse and repeat. So, big picture, every 4 years, we do a crypto halving. You get a big run post halving, you get crypto winter, another grind into the next halving, big run, crypto winter pullback, grind into the next halving, big run up into the next what? Pullback into the next halving. So this is rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. All I can say is right now, it doesn't mean that Bitcoin is definitely topped and it's over because we learned a lesson back the last time. It still went on to make new highs. Are we going to do it again today? And this time, maybe. We got to start threading the needle. So as I start zooming this in for you and bringing this back into perspective, we need, I'll move that out of the way. I always move my lines when I don't want to. We need to get above the Magic Fibo to start, and we need continuation to close above 108. We do that, then it's game on, and I guess that's the one I remove. From that high down to this low, that would put us the extensions. Amen. All-time new highs would be extremely high probability should we A, get above the Magic Fibo, and more importantly, B, get above 108 candle body close, then it sets the tone. We're going to go to all-time highs again. Is this the beginning? Maybe. But all this chopping and grinding looks awfully similar to what happened back in 2021. Go back to that previous halving down in here. Right there. We're kind of ripped up, got a big decline, and then when it all looked doom and gloom, and we were just chopping and grinding and thought, uh-oh, that's the end. No way it's going to go. And what did it do, Randy? Ooh, ripped up to new highs. Amen. Got it? There you have it. So let's just see if that 126 ends up being that, then maybe 132, maybe 138. I do think we get above that 108, sets the tone for this, and could even push into our original target of 150. Am I discouraged, Harold, when I said when we were at 20,000 and lower, the plan was run to 150 and we went from 20 to 126? If that ends up being the end, that's not bad. Right? A little shy of the target, but it's not bad. And again, is this over? Too early to call, but we started breaking 80. We're definitely going to go down to 74, 75, in my humble opinion. And if I see that followed by a three-wave correction, then I'll start to call this the end of that. And we'll look for the crypto winter to continue. And if we get to 50 and lower, doesn't matter. It's today, tomorrow, next week, next month, 6 months from now, whatever, we get Bitcoin at 50,000 and lower, that's the time to start accumulating for the next run up in 2028. Fair enough? Everybody good? So let's circle the wagons. Dollar index is expected to whimper out. So just a quick circle the wagons and review. I like to circle the wagons, get everybody caught up. We're kind of grinding in this zone. Could we break out and go higher? Sure, it's possible. But my daily's getting overbought, and I'm looking for this daily to turn over and push lower. So this overlapping price action is not conducive to a big reversal, although from the low to the high, we did a 618 bounce. Now we got to get above that magic Fibo to kind of set the tone. Maybe we go higher, but if we get rejected, then it's more likely we need a new swing point low, which would put us down in the 95 area. So let me condense that a little bit for you so you can see the targets down there. 95. This overlapping action resulted in a new low. Now we got overlapping. It looks more stair-stepping, but it's still overlap that low to that high, this high to that low, this high to that low. We broke down, we bounced. This is the only bullishness out of this. We bounced off of 618. So we're stuck between support and resistance. Ever heard that before? As long as you're below the magic Fibo, it's bearish. You get above the magic Fibo, you get more bullish. So we need to close above from this recent high to low, above that 618 up there, which is right there. Need to get above that to set the tone for us to go higher. Keep in mind that if this baby does this, where we do break above the magic Fibo, retest and break out, and get above this 100 and change, then it sets the tone for us to go to 177, 101-ish, right? That would be this recent high to low, close above the 618, sets the tone we are going to go up. But that's a big if. So with all this overlapping price action like the last time, we did break to a new low. So do we do it again this time? That's the way I'm leaning. And all this was a daily cycle up. So when the daily cycles back down, we're more than likely, in my humble opinion, going to go breaking a new low. So if you're long the dollar into that move, I'd be in a position of authority, looking for this thing to rip lower, not rip higher. But you know what the resistance level is. We get above the magic Fibo. We close with a candle body, not a wick. Then it sets the tone. We're going to go higher. Hint, hint, hint. There's a big short up here at 102. So we can maybe run up here, still fail. That's possible. But I'm not convinced we're going to break above the magic Fibo. I think we're probably turned down from this. But this is critical battle right now, Randy, right here. This is the main battle right there. Are we going to break out? Or are we going to break down? If we hit 102 up here, I anticipate a short squeeze that'll then push us up toward that 104 to 107 level. 104 to 107, where we'd get the short squeeze above 102, and that baby would go ripping up into this direction. Fair enough? But I'm not convinced we're going to do that. I think we're going to turn down, and this overlapping chopping action sets the tone for a new low to clean that up. That in turn does the euro and the pound, just as we're reviewing. It's kind of grinding right now. We're still in a position of authority on these. We've been talking about you get in, you get your position of authority, you make your pips, and then we continue to look. We're still grinding in 70 plus pips. Is this going to go higher from here? The plan, that is the plan. But do we finish the cycle to reverse? Do we start slingshotting? But I'm holding true with that. My pound dollar up over 250 pips, looking for that to hold and go much higher. Because why? The main reason is based on these pairs. You use the prior swing point, the move on that, and Mr. Tucson. Well, actually, that's the bigger picture, but I want to focus on the lower, the newest correction. From that recent high to low, magic Fibo bounce. We broke back above the 618, and the bias is we have a 75% chance, Harold, we're still going to continue this grind towards 1980, 70+%. We go to 120. So that's still the plan. That's why I'm in a position of authority looking for that euro to continue to climb higher. Amen. And then the pound is in the same boat. We got what we needed. Same thing from the recent high over here to the recent low, this high to this low. We closed above the magic 618 level, candle body, not a wick. Got a candle body there. We got some more over here. So we're still standing at a 75% chance we're going to 139 and a 70+% chance we're basically going to make a move toward 140. Amen. So again, we're in a position of authority. We're looking for this thing to go higher. I like the odds, 75% we're going to 139, which is still roughly almost 600 pips to go. And we're up hundreds of pips, and we're looking for hundreds and hundreds more. That's why I think we're going to keep buying the dips and look for this thing to grind up there. It is what it is. Was that a guarantee it gets up here? Well, no, Mr. Tucson, I can't give a guarantee. 75% is a high probability, certainly, but there's still 25% this doesn't play out. But the technical picture, plus the software, plus a lot of other reasons, I'm going with this route, heading higher. And I'm already in a position of authority. All right. Then you come to the markets. Be careful. The S&P has been leading the charge, all-time new highs. NASDAQ is lagging behind, not giving us what we want. Kind of warned you with the little sell-off this morning. Every time we get a sell-off, the bulls step back in. Is this more of the same? We did reach the extension, so I did kind of expect a pullback. Is that the end of it? And we're ready to go higher, or we still need to go lower? Just be careful. Monthly overbought, weekly overbought, daily overbought, in a position of authority. We talked about buying it, shoot for those targets. We reached them. I'm no longer in that long trade. Fulfilled my targets. Now I'm looking for an opportunity. I'd love to see a nice pullback to set the tone for the next big surge. Is it possible this thing could keep grunting and grinding higher? Sure. But we need some sort of pullback. NASDAQ is underperforming. Are we going to get what we need from the NASDAQ to finally break out? And it's pretty substantial if it can. We've been kind of testing this zone, where ES is at all-time highs. Dow went to all-time highs, but NASDAQ is not. It's grinding. So, Randy, watch this, James and others. If we can start closing, holding, that's a big hold, because what have we done in multiple days? We rally up, we sell off, rally up, sell off, rally up, sell off. So if we can close above this 26,000 where we're testing, it kind of sets the tone to start targeting 26.7, 27. And that's a nice run, but I'd wait and make sure that we get the close. So if you're into the NASDAQ on ES or the futures, I would definitely be in a position of authority, because you know what happens, that we could start fizzling by the end of the day. But if we close daily candle above 26,000, then we could stay long and shoot for 26.7, maybe 27 to the upside. Fair enough. Russell, it too reached the extensions we were talking about, reached the bubble we were looking for. I'd be careful up here. Sure, it can go up toward 265, 266, confluence of events, but we may need a little pullback first. All I can say is we get some sort of nice dip. I'm going to look at buying the dip for the run. Otherwise, is it possible it can continue just to grind up there? Sure. I do think we got more upside before we're done. Nikkei, again, are we going to rip from here and go straight up to that 60,000? I think we're going to make a run toward there. We already reached our initial targets. It's 53, 59, 53.9, basically 53, 54 area. Kind of what we were thinking. Do we get a pullback first before we get up here? But this bullishness looks like we are going to make a run toward that 58.60. I'm just not convinced Mr. Tucson is going to go straight up there. We may need some sort of little pullback before we get up there. But by getting up into the 58 to 60,000, that should pull NASDAQ to 27,000, etc. So keep an eye on that. I can't imagine this continuing to rip higher as global liquidity and our ES doesn't, and NASDAQ doesn't, and Dow, etc. I think that will pull our markets up as well. But be careful because we did reach the extensions, and typically after reaching extensions, you get some sort of pullback. Amen? All righty. There you have it. And last but not least, be careful on black gold. It's running and testing that magic Fibo. It's right at the cloud, right at the magic Fibo. Is this thing going to go breaking out from here? I'm still not convinced. This does look three wave in its correction, so we're probably still going to get the flush down to 50 and lower. All I can say is the day I hear oil prices are 50 and lower, I'm buying UCO. Amen. Is it possible that's the end of this correction? I was looking to get to 50 and lower by making that slight lower low. It's still overlapping. It's still chopping. It still doesn't look conducive to this. And we're below the magic Fibo. It's still bearish. So if we see this Harold, we break above, retest, and then we break above that, whatever that swing point, we go maybe 64, we pull back, bounce, then we break 64, and then we can start targeting 67, 69. But I'm not convinced because A, we're below the magic Fibo, and B, we haven't crossed above the 618 yet and got a close above there. And all of this price action still looks overlapping, so we probably need one more flush. Again, we get that, and that's what I said on that class. We close below 50 or lower, I'm buying UCO. So with that, I'll say good luck. God bless you. May the pips be with you. I'm humbled and honored to be your mentor and instructor, and join us again tomorrow. That's it, and that's all.